Welcome to Specific Lathe. Today I'm going to show you how to make 5 simple bow sanders so you can quickly and easily sand down those edges. Let's begin. Now for all these sanders, I'm going to be using sanding belts. If by chance you don't have access to sanding belts, you can always take some regular sanding paper and add some heavy duty tape to the back of it. In this case, it's Gorilla Tape, but whatever kind of heavy duty tape. Just line the back of it, make sure it's nice and smooth, and use that. Now for number 1, I'm going to be using a 2x4. Now we're going to take the sanding belt, we're going to put it on top of the 2x4. We want to do a rough outline of what this looks like so that we can know where to cut. Now once I have this traced out, I made sure to have the bottom look more like a bow. You want the total width of this to be just slightly wider than the sanding belt because you can always sand down the wood later and then go back and refit this. But if you make this too small, well then it's not going to work. Alright, then we're going to use the bandsaw to cut this shape out. Now this is a good point. We want to test the sanding belt and see how close we actually are. Sliding this over. I am still a little bit on the large side here. So we're going to go back and sand all this down, not only to smooth things out, but to taper it off a little bit, make it a little bit smaller so this can fit. Alright, we have the belt will fit nicely over the board, but as you can tell, it is just too big. This is a 3-inch belt, and of course this is a 1.5-inch board, so we're going to cut this in half, and then we'll be done. Alright, the first one is done. There is a little bit of flex here in the bottom, but that's okay. It'll contour around those edges real easily. Fits in your hand real nicely, and the best thing about it is if this side wears out, just rotate it around and you can keep going. Now for the second one, you don't need a bandsaw. In this case, you're going to need some very thin strips, or in my case, I just happened to be a 2x4 that I had cut from a previous project. It is real thin, it's pretty flexible, so we're going to cut some 16-inch pieces off of this, and then we're going to flex it around the small frame and glue them together. Now I've cut these into 16-inch strips because I'm going to be using a 1x30-inch belt. Of course, half of 30 is 15, so we're going to need to flex this, and hopefully we won't need to form it too much to get it to fit inside. Now I'm using a 2x6 with 3 nails so that I can form these boards around it. I've used 2 of these boards that I've glued together. Now I'm going to put some clamps on it, so hopefully it'll stay together. Now I removed the wood from the form and it took the shape nicely. Now we want to make it just the right size so that it fits inside of this sanding belt. Now on the ends here, they're so thin and they're so sharp, there's a good chance it'll cut into the belt over time. So I took some 1x material and I have trimmed down a couple pieces and made some notches on the end so they fit nicely right on the ends of the wood here. Now once that is in place, you should be able to get this belt very carefully. In fact, I probably should do it this way. And there you go, an easy to assemble bow sander. We're going to be using some furring strips. These are only about $1 or $2 a piece at your hardware store, so you can get an 8-foot section. So grab one of those. Now I've cut a section to about 22 inches long, then I made 2 additional cuts here, so we have 3 total pieces. Then I'm going to connect the 2 large ones here and the third one down here as a brace, and we're going to glue all this up. Now that this is all dry, I'm going to drill some holes right in both ends so I can insert some dowels. Now before we install these dowels in each of the holes, we need to cut them down to about 2 inches. Now we're going to put the belt on. We're going to stretch it out as far as we can up here. Get it nice and tight. We're going to use a dowel to find where we need to put a hole, make a mark, and go drill. And there you go. Now if you need a small bow sander, here's a great way to do it with some craft sticks. Alright, first off we need to get some hot water. I'm using hot water to speed up this process. Just take your sticks, set them inside, make sure they're fully submerged, and give it some time to get nice and flexible. Now that we've given it some time for the water to soak into the wood, make sure you give it long enough or otherwise it'll crack just like a normal piece will. We're going to wrap it around, I believe this is 2-inch PVC, and we use some rubber bands to hold everything in place. Be careful when you're wrapping it to keep equal pressure all the way around the wood, otherwise it will crack again. And we're going to give this some time to dry. Now once we've given the craft stick some time to dry around the PVC, you can easily slide them off. Now in this case, I took some pliers and I just cut the ends off to make them nice and straight so it's not curved like from the factory. And since these are nice and sharp, we can take some hot glue and put these around the edges here. That will not only smooth this out so it doesn't cut into the belt, but it will also give some additional grip. All right, and here is the end result. I actually took a 1/2" belt sander here and I cut it and trimmed it to size just so it's a little bit down on each side. Then I took some tape and wrapped it around the top just to help hold it in place. And this hot glue is definitely holding it nice and secure. Great thing about this little tiny sander is that you can get real close for intricate sandings or maybe even on the lathe if you need to get into a specific spot. Anyway, it's a great way to make a tiny little bow sander. And now I'm going to show you how to make one using some 1/2" PVC pipe and fittings. Now I'm going to be using a 1.5" belt, so we're going to take 2 PVC elbows and a 1.5" piece of pipe, put it between the two, squeeze them together as close as we can, and then we're going to double that up. Now I got 2 pieces of PVC pipe, both of them about 2 feet long. We're currently outside because I'm going to be using a heat gun to heat these up and bend these, hopefully, uniformly over this piece of wood. So let's do that. All right, now we're gonna cut these to size and put everything together. And there you go. I have the belt wrapped over these elbows, and so it's easily can be taken back apart and add additional pieces or just rotate this. Now the handle is a little bit wide. You can always squeeze it together, possibly put some tape or some rope around it so it's a little bit easier to hold in your hand. But overall, there's you a PVC bow sander. Now bow sanders are very simple tools, but it can be very handy in your shop. I hope you get a chance to make one. So get out in your shop and have fun building. Belt. What is this? Sanding belts. All right. And just tape some grill it and just tape some grill it. Just for all of these what? Tape in this case. Dang it, I did it again. Woo! Nicer and uniform. I don't know how to stop. 1/2" PVC and a lot quicker and uniformly. Welcome to shut up. I can't do what you're looking at. Shut up. My cameraman's making fun of me right now.